Hi, and welcome to News in Depth. I'm Adam Lowenstein. Thanks for tuning in. On today's broadcast, we'll look at how a Palm Bay charter school that features innovative teaching techniques and the latest environmental building elements will be the model on which some future charter schools will be based. We'll visit with Scott Sorenson, whose company, Sorenson Moving and Storage, is heading in some new directions, including selling office furniture, as it looks for ways to diversify after more than a half century of focusing on moving services. Mark Mikolajczyk, the president and publisher of Florida Today, will stop by to tell us about the upcoming Volunteer Recognition Awards. Nominations are now being accepted. And he'll talk about the importance of giving back. And you boat owners need to start battening down the hatches. This week's Hurricane How-To is all about safeguarding your ship in case of a major storm. And here's a hint. That does not involve affixing a parrot to your shoulder and trying to tough out the storm in your boat. Bad idea. First up, though, a pair of stories from our space team. When David Cohn Jr. was a youngster living in Oviedo, he and his brother would launch homemade rockets from the fields near their home. One time, they even sent up a lizard in one of their ships. But I'll let Mr. Cohn tell you how that critter fared. He's now moved on to slightly larger rockets, such as the 191-foot-tall Atlas V that carried up a government satellite last week when it launched from Cape Canaveral. As head of data analysis for United Launch Alliance, the soft-spoken engineer has come a long way from those grassy fields. And as we found out, it hasn't always been easy.
David Cohn Jr. grew up in the segregated South, but he knew from an early age rockets would be in his future. The current United Launch Alliance head of data analysis for Atlas rockets started early when his father was a painter for General Dynamics, the company that initially built the Atlas rockets.
My brother and I, we would build small rockets, and we'd launch them in an open 10-acre field in front of our house, and it was fun. We once launched, we had a rocket that had a clear payload tube on it, and we were able to squeeze the lizard in there. We launched him and recovered him successfully. And we did a roach. We got him back. The lizard was not in very good shape when he was, I guess the G-forces had some impact on him, but he was alive.
From there, Cohn's love affair with rockets progressed. He attended Florida Technological University, which later became UCF. He became the first African American to earn an electrical engineering degree from the school, and he also was the first African American engineer at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station's Launch Complex 36 when he joined General Dynamics in 1975.
Having gone through the university and having been the only black in so many classes, it really wasn't a problem. The only issues that I had was I was very young at that time, and General Dynamics hadn't hired many people for a long time, so there was like a generational gap there, and so I had these technicians working for me who were old enough to be my dad, so I have to give them instructions, and I'm this young black guy out of college, and I'm telling them what to do, that kind of thing, and but it was a little bit awkward at first, but after a while they understood that I understood electronics, and I knew how to get my job done. And then a relationship developed between me and them. And in the end, one of my techs, he said, "You take care of us, and we'll take care of you." That kind of relationship.
With no barriers to limit his success, Cohn moved through the ranks at General Dynamics. He progressed from a landline systems engineer to a telemetry systems engineer. In 1995, he became lead engineer for airborne telemetry systems. His job further changed when ULA took over for General Dynamics.
After we became ULA, my job function changed to data analysis. We have a data group here currently, and my job function is to verify that the testing that is performed on the vehicle and on the ground is performed without problems, or if there are any problems there, then to help uncover those problems.
Cohn has seen 88 consecutive Atlas launch successes since 1993, with the most recent coming last week when a super-secret satellite took off from Canaveral Air Station. For Cohn, each launch is something to behold.
at times I have to pinch myself because this is something that I think that not many people would ever get to do. And even today, when I walk through the high bay, it's an experience that most people will never get that close to a rocket. Most people will never get to be close to a spacecraft, a real satellite, that kind of thing. And I've worked on those. And so it was a fantastic experience.
David Cohn has now been part of 88 consecutive Atlas launches since 1993. None, as far as we know, have involved lizards. From the here and now of space to the future of space, reporters Todd Halverson and James Dean have been closely following the goings-on with the Augustine Committee from their perch at Kennedy Space Center, where they report on space for Florida Today. That panel is a presidentially appointed group led by former Lockheed Martin CEO Norman Augustine that was asked to review U.S. human spaceflight plans. In the executive summary of the group's finding, released last week, members suggested the White House rethink everything about space, from former President George Bush's 2010 retirement date for the space shuttle to his goal of sending astronauts back to the moon by 2020. The committee recommended that the shuttle be allowed to fly into 2011, and while it didn't rule out sustained exploration of the moon, it also favors sending astronauts to asteroids and to the moons of Mars. Here's more from Todd and James.
President Obama and his White House science advisors are going to chart a new course for NASA sometime in the next month, and it's going to have a big impact on Brevard County and the Space Coast. I'm Todd Halverson of Florida Today, and this is James Dean. And James, Blue Ribbon panel recently reported back to the president and came up with a number of options for the president to look at that mostly do not include the present program that NASA is pursuing. But one finding that they did have was that NASA requires another $3 billion a year.
Yeah, that's right, Todd. Without about $3 billion a year, ramping up to that amount in the next few years, the panel decided that NASA really isn't going anywhere beyond where we already are in low Earth orbit and the space station. These plans, big plans to go to the moon as early as 2020, not going to happen without a lot more money.
There was a consensus, a very strong consensus, that astronauts should go beyond Earth orbit as the next step in the nation's space exploration program. But whether that involves the space shuttle or the Ares rockets and Orion spacecraft remain to be seen. On the space shuttle, it appears that the space shuttle fleet is going to be retired in 2010 or 2011. There's one option to extend until 2015. What would that option mean to Brevard County?
Well, it's the best hope for thousands of workers here at Kennedy Space Center to keep their jobs beyond what the current retirement date is, late in 2010 or early in 2011. So that's the only hope for significantly reducing a minimum 5, 6, maybe 7-year gap in human launches here from Kennedy Space Center. But it's not clear that that's really a top priority.
It probably won't be a top priority. It would be the only way to reduce the gap. It would be the only way to reduce our dependence on the Russian Soyuz crew transport vehicles. And the committee had an interesting idea to turn over the actual launch of astronauts to private industry. What's that about?
Well, the committee is looking at alternatives that could possibly lower NASA's costs, and they found that looking to the private sector might be an option that NASA should consider to safely launch crews at a lower cost. To date, that's not been considered, but they are doing that, planning to do that with cargo up to the International Space Station after the shuttle's retired, and the committee didn't seem to think it was a big leap to go the next step and launch people as well.
In terms of destination, the moon is still in play. Mars is the ultimate goal, and they even talked about perhaps sending astronauts to asteroids. We'll be on top of this story out here at the Kennedy Space Center. For now, I'm Todd Halverson reporting for Florida Today, and this is James Dean. Thanks very much.
You can get updates on this story and everything space-related, including access to our popular space blog, The Flame Trench, at floridatoday.com/space. Now, it might not be as high-tech as a rocket, but Odyssey Charter School has its share of cutting-edge components, both in its building and its approach to teaching. The 550-student school in Palm Bay resides in a building that's been awarded for its energy-efficient construction, lots of natural lighting, for example, and lauded for its holistic approach to teaching. And it doesn't hurt that the cafeteria turns out some interesting and even organic cuisine. All of this has led the school's new management company, Academica, to decide that Odyssey represents something worth replicating. Let's head to the classroom.
You're going to have, because it should be all the way full.
So basically we have to add the whole thing.
Odyssey's mission is to help each child reach full potential in all areas of life. So we take into consideration all aspects of the child's environment. So it's a very child-centered school, and we include the whole school design. So at Odyssey we have a healthy green school environment. We won the Energy Star Award in 2007, and our facility has been recognized to be a very healthy and nurturing environment. And we also take into consideration the school lunch program. So we serve things like growth hormone-free chicken and some organic vegetables and fresh fruits and veggies every day, and food is made from scratch. And then we have a holistic education program which looks at the development of the whole child. So we are quite different, and hopefully a nice complement to our other very fine district schools.
We have mostly all windows so that we don't have to always turn on the lights. We always have natural light, and our air conditionings are different than most other schools because it's more natural and we get more of the air from outside, and we use less energy. And actually, I'm pretty sure our walls are made out of a special material, newspaper, and another special material, so that it's pretty much all natural.
What we're looking at is giving the children an environment that replicates the real world, not sitting in a desk, sitting in a row, doing worksheet day after day. The world doesn't work that way. So what we're trying to do in the multitude of curricular options we have is offer these children something that replicates the real world that they will encounter.
We're hoping that we can help children develop fully who they are first and foremost, and come out as, when they leave here, as healthy human beings, so that they can make the decisions and the choices and aren't struggling with some of the issues that our young people are having today, like diabetes and obesity and all the issues that we have in our fast food society. So we're just hoping that we can help create and mold children and guide children into becoming the best that they personally can be.
Like what you saw, so do plenty of others, as Odyssey is now running a waiting list for prospective students. Chairs and desks of a different sort are the focus of our next story. These, from high-end makers such as Herman Miller, are now part of the business plan at Sorenson Moving and Storage, a 53-year-old Melbourne company that made its name by offering moving services. Faced with a tough economy and a decades-low number of movers, Sorenson has aggressively approached diversification, as we learned when we talked to company president Scott Sorenson.
Well, Sorenson Moving and Storage is a 53-year-old company, and our core business over those 53 years has been primarily focused around the moving and storage industry, and we've been very successful in those 53 years. With the latest economic conditions that have lasted somewhere around 2 to 3 years, and with no end in sight, we made a decision earlier this year, actually at the end of 2008, when we were putting together our business plan, to diversify, continue to try to grow our core business, which again is the moving services business, but at the same time diversify into some other things. And a couple of things that we're going to be doing, the most prominent thing that we're going to be doing is getting into the office furniture business. We're going to be a Herman Miller dealer here in Brevard County, Volusia County, and Indian River County. We feel like this is a great business for us to be in because it's a business that goes hand in hand with the business that we're already in, the commercial part of our business that is, and that is commercial office moving. So we will be selling both wholesale and retail Herman Miller office furniture and products, along with a number of other supplemental office brand names. This business is going to be open sometime in mid-October, and we're looking forward to really getting into it and making it a successful part of our company that, again, has been in business for over 50 years.
We're now joined by Mark Mikolajczyk, president and publisher of Florida Today. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Adam. Thanks for having me here today.
Our pleasure. As you know, for more than 17 years, Florida Today has recognized those who go above and beyond by bestowing the Volunteer Recognition Awards. The awards highlight the citizens and organizations who have spent countless hours and made endless contributions, all in the name of helping others. Their roles are even more important nowadays as we weather these tough economic times. Nominations for the 4 categories, Citizen of the Year, Volunteer of the Year, Organization of the Year, and Business of the Year, are now available at floridatoday.com/VRA. The finalists will be spotlighted in Florida Today on November 19th, and winners will be announced in the paper the next day. So Mark, tell us about when the VRAs got started and what they're meant to signify.
Okay, Adam. Actually, back in 1992, Mike Coleman, who was publisher of Florida Today at that time, when he first came to town, saw that there was a huge amount of volunteerism in our community. So he felt Florida Today needed to reach out and recognize those individuals or organizations who really do try to give back and work hard for our community.
How does the nomination process work?
As you mentioned, you go to floridatoday.com/VRA, and the nomination forms are there. You can submit nominations electronically, you can print out the forms, you can mail them, you can drop them off at our office. But it's open to, there's 4 categories as you mentioned, and it's open to many diverse people out there really working hard that give their time, their talent, their treasures back to our community.
And one of the key dates now, of course, is October 2nd.
That's right, October 2nd at 4 p.m. That's a drop dead date, so we're looking for everybody to have their nominations in by then.
Sure, okay. Now, why is the spirit of volunteering so important, and how does it sort of play a role in a healthy community like the Space Coast?
Any organization, you can give money to an organization and they could be somewhat successful, but they cannot really reach and become very successful unless they have a lot of volunteer time and effort. And it takes volunteers to really make a nonprofit organization or to be helpful or to make any kind of success in the community. So it's really about trying to recognize those people, as I mentioned, that really give a lot of time and give a lot of time back to our community.
Well, thank you. We were joined by Mark Mikolajczyk, President and Publisher of Florida Today.
Thank you.
And finally today, it's your hurricane tip. This time we'll tell you about getting your boat ready for the big storm.
Brevard County is a boater's haven, so when a hurricane comes, owners need to be ready. How to prepare your boat depends on the size of the vessel and where the boat is kept, along with state law and marina rules. Keeping your boat in a garage or enclosed structure is your best bet for keeping it safe. But many don't have that luxury. So if you have to leave your boat in the water or by your dock, start by tying it high on the pilings because the water will rise. Use plenty of line and double check your knots to make sure they are secure. Make sure the battery has enough life to run bilge pumps throughout the storm. And if you can, install fenders to protect the boat from rubbing against the dock. If you have to leave your boat on a trailer, park it near a solid structure, keeping in mind the direction in which the storm will come. Use strong rope or chain to secure the boat to the trailer. Let air out of the trailer tires and prevent rolling by securing blocks around the tires. Finally, do not ever try to ride a storm out in a boat. Winds can lift a boat out of the water as well as submerge it.
Well, that's our show. I'm Adam Lowenstein. We'll be back next Tuesday, and we hope to see you then. Thanks for watching, and have a great week.